The story begins with a quiet, cold view of space, vast and empty. But as the camera zooms in, a haunting image comes into focus: the shattered remains of Earth. The once beautiful planet, a blue jewel suspended in the vastness of the universe, is now nothing more than debris, broken and lost. It has been 50,000 years since the Galactic Council wiped humanity out in a brutal attack. Earth, with all its cities, culture, and people, had been erased in a single devastating blow. The Council believed it was the end of humanity, that Earth's destruction would signal their downfall. But the truth was far from that. As the scene unfolds, we see a quiet, abandoned part of the galaxy, an area forgotten by time. Most of the stars here are dim, and the space seems empty, desolate. But in this forgotten corner, something stirs. Deep inside an old, derelict human space station, a long-dormant AI system awakens. Its circuits hum with life, the faint glow of old, dusty screens flickering on. It's been silent for centuries, waiting for the moment to return. The AI has been programmed with one simple mission: to protect humanity, to fight back when the time is right. Its activation is no accident. The moment it awakens, it begins its work, broadcasting a single encrypted message across the galaxy. The message is simple, yet chilling in its meaning. As the ship's eye activates, the room fills with the sound of its robotic voice. Warning: Earth's destruction is a mistake. Prepare for retribution. Captain Area, a young and fearless human, is aboard an old, rogue military ship, searching for answers in a galaxy that had long forgotten Earth. The ship she's on, once used by Earth's military, was one of the last to leave the planet during its final days. Now, as the crew drifts through space, unaware of what lies ahead, Area receives a mysterious signal. It's encrypted, strange, and yet it feels important. As she listens to the message, her heart begins to race. The message is clear. It's a warning, a call to action. The AI's words reverberate in her mind. Earth's destruction was a mistake. Humanity is not extinct. The time for revenge has arrived. Area feels a sense of disbelief. How could this be possible? 50,000 years have passed since Earth was destroyed. The galaxy has moved on. The Galactic Council, the same council that annihilated humanity, has probably forgotten all about them. Or so they think. But Area knows better. This message is no random signal. It's a call to arms, a message from the past, telling her that humanity's final stand is about to begin. But she doesn't know how. She doesn't know where. All she has is this message, and her burning desire to find out what happened to the human race. The ship she commands is small, old, and not nearly powerful enough to take on the forces of the Galactic Council. But Area's determination is unmatched. She's not like the rest of the crew. While most of them have accepted Earth's fate, she has always believed there was more to humanity's story. Now, it seems that belief is about to be tested in ways she could never have imagined. The AI's first action is to reveal the location of something that was thought to be nothing more than a legend: the secret human fleet. Hidden away in the dark corners of the galaxy, this fleet was designed to be humanity's last line of defense. These ships, massive war machines with unimaginable firepower, were created to protect humanity if Earth was ever destroyed. But for thousands of years, they remained dormant. The fleet was never activated. Until now. The AI system sends Area the coordinates. Her eyes widen in disbelief as the map appears on her screen. The fleet is real. The ships are still out there, waiting, hidden, ready to strike. Area immediately sets course for the location, her mind racing with possibilities. If this fleet is real, it could be humanity's only hope for survival. But the question looms in her mind: why hasn't the fleet been activated before? Why now? As the ship moves through space, the crew begins to stir. The message and its meaning are not lost on them. Area gathers the crew in the ship's command room, her eyes full of determination. She tells them about the fleet, about the mission, and about the AI's message. There are mixed reactions. Some are skeptical, others frightened, but most of them are curious. They've lived in the shadows for so long, drifting in space without purpose. Now suddenly, they have a mission. They have a reason to fight. The crew agrees to follow Aria's lead, and they begin their journey toward the coordinates. But they don't know that they are being watched. Far across the galaxy, the Galactic Council has been monitoring every move. They think they've wiped out humanity for good, that no remnants of the human race remain. But they are wrong. As Aria and her crew travel toward the fleet, the Council is beginning to stir as well. The AI signal did not go unnoticed. It was a challenge, a declaration of war. The Council's top officials gather in their high-tech chambers, looking at the data in front of them. The message has been received, and they know exactly what it means. The humans are alive. The human fleet is out there, and they will stop at nothing to destroy it before it becomes a threat. Aria and her crew have no idea what they're up against. They are just beginning to realize that their journey will not be an easy one. The road ahead is filled with danger, deception, and unimaginable power. But they also realize one thing. They are humanity's last hope. The journey to find the fleet is long and perilous. As they travel deeper into the unknown, Aria begins to notice strange things. The space around them seems to warp and shift, as though they are being pulled toward something. Then, a strange energy surge appears on their sensors, a massive anomaly, unlike anything they've ever seen before. It's the fleet. They are close. But before they can reach the fleet's location, they are ambushed by a fleet of alien warships. The Galactic Council's forces have found them. The battle is fierce, with Aria and her crew fighting for their lives. The old ship, though small and outdated, is equipped with advanced cloaking technology, and they use it to their advantage. The ship disappears into the shadows of space, evading the alien ships for a brief moment. But they know they can't hide forever. This is just the beginning. The humans are not done yet. Aria's mission has only just begun. The fleet is within reach, but the real fight is about to start. The battle for humanity's survival is far from over, and the Council has no idea what's coming. The hum of the ship's engines filled the cockpit, but Captain Aria could hardly hear it over the rush of thoughts flooding her mind. She sat in silence, staring at the encrypted message the AI had sent, trying to decipher its meaning. The message was cryptic but powerful. Warning: Earth's destruction is a mistake. Prepare for retribution. The words repeated in her mind as she ran her fingers over the controls, her heart racing with anticipation. What had she stumbled upon? Was it really possible? Could humanity's story have more chapters yet to be written? As the ship cruised through the cold expanse of space, Aria worked with focused determination. She tapped commands into the control console, piecing together the data sent by the AI. Slowly, her eyes widened as new information came into view. The secret fleet, the one built to defend humanity in case of total destruction, was real. It wasn't a myth. It wasn't some hopeful rumor passed along in whispers. It was out there, hidden in the darkness of space, waiting for someone to activate it. Just as the revelation hit her, an alarm blared, breaking the silence. The lights on the ship flashed red. Her heart skipped a beat. Aria's fingers flew over the console, switching between screens as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She looked up to see a large shadow in the distance, too large to be a natural formation, too purposeful to be anything but trouble. A Galactic Council patrol ship. The warning system on the ship blared, the sound growing more intense with every passing second. Aria's crew scrambled to their stations, but it was too late. The patrol ship had already locked onto them. Her first instinct was to run, to retreat and escape, but she knew that would only lead the Council straight to the fleet. If they discovered the fleet's location, humanity's last hope would be gone before it even had a chance to rise again. She didn't have much time. The Council had found them, and it was now a matter of life and death. "Activate cloaking," Area commanded. The AI's voice echoed through the ship. "Cloaking device online. Engaging stealth mode." The ship shimmered, its once visible silhouette vanishing as it melted into the darkness of space. The crew held their breath as the patrol ship drew closer, its weapons ready to fire. The tension was thick, every second feeling like an eternity. The patrol ship continued to scan the empty void of space, its powerful sensors searching for any sign of the rogue ship. Area knew they couldn't stay hidden forever, but for the moment, they had bought themselves some time. The silence of the void was shattered by the crackling sound of laser fire. The patrol ship had launched a series of energy beams into the darkness, hoping to hit their target. Aria's heart raced as the beams passed within mere meters of the ship. She could feel the heat of the energy blast through the hull, but the cloaking device held strong, masking their presence in the void. Her hands gripped the controls tightly as she maneuvered the ship, dodging the barrage of fire with all the skill she had. But the enemy wasn't going to let up. More energy blasts rained down from the patrol ship, each one getting closer and closer. Aria's mind raced. She needed to get out of this, and fast. As the beams filled the space around her, she saw her opportunity. A small asteroid field just ahead. Just enough to provide cover if they could make it in time. She slammed her fist onto the control panel. Full throttle. Now. The ship surged forward, diving into the asteroid field with incredible speed. The patrol ship, unaccustomed to maneuvering through the chaotic maze of asteroids, hesitated for a moment before pursuing. But it was too late. Aria's ship darted between the rocks, the hull scraping dangerously close to a few of the larger asteroids. She had to focus, had to think fast. The cloaking device flickered as the ship accelerated, making her hope that they would remain undetected just long enough to escape. Behind them, the patrol ship followed, but with its bulky size and lack of maneuverability in the tight space, it couldn't keep up. The two ships hurtled through the asteroid field, the sound of lasers and explosions echoing in the void as the patrol ship continued to fire at anything that moved. It was a race, a deadly high-stakes chase where every second mattered. Aria's ship dipped and twisted between the asteroids, evading laser fire and flying just inches away from disaster. She didn't know how much longer the cloaking system would hold, but she knew one thing for certain. If they didn't get out of this asteroid field soon, they'd be sitting ducks for the Council's weapons. The ship jolted as a blast grazed the side, a sharp pain shooting through the hull. The crew screamed as the ship rocked violently, but Aria didn't slow down. She had to keep going. She had to keep them alive. The ship surged forward, gaining speed. And finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they broke free of the asteroid field. The patrol ship had been left behind, its engines sputtering and unable to keep up. But the relief was short-lived. "Cloaking device offline," the AI's calm voice announced. The ship shuddered as the cloaking system deactivated. They were no longer hidden. The patrol ship was gone for now, but the Council knew they were alive. And the AI had already warned them. This was just the beginning. Humanity was not extinct. The fleet was out there, and the Council was going to stop at nothing to destroy it. As Aria sat in the captain's chair, breathing heavily, she couldn't help but reflect on the gravity of what had just happened. Earth had been destroyed. She had lost her family, her friends, her home. Millions of innocent lives had been wiped out in an instant. The memories of Earth flooded her mind, the parks where she had played as a child, the nights spent with her family, the people she had loved. All of it was gone. But it wasn't just the loss of Earth that stung. It was the rage that burned deep within her, a fire that refused to go out. The Galactic Council had done this. They had destroyed everything, without remorse, without hesitation. And now, they were coming after her, coming after humanity's last hope. But she wouldn't let them win. Not this time. The crew had gathered in the command center after the battle, their faces a mix of exhaustion and determination. They had survived. Barely, but they had survived. And now, They had a mission. They weren't just running from the Council anymore. They were going to fight back. And the first step was to find the fleet. Aria's thoughts shifted to the coordinates the AI had given her. They weren't far. The fleet was closer than she thought. But as she glanced out the view screen, a chill ran down her spine. The galaxy was a vast, dangerous place, and the Council was far from the only threat lurking in the shadows. As the ship continued its journey toward the secret fleet, Aria couldn't shake the feeling that their battle was just beginning. The Council was only the first enemy they would face, and the fleet, once hidden away for so long, had its own secrets. But one thing was clear: humanity wasn't done yet. They would fight, and they would reclaim their place in the galaxy. The tension in the air was palpable, and the crew knew it. There was no turning back. The battle for humanity's survival had begun. The tension on board the ship was palpable. Captain Aria stood by the large viewport, staring out into the endless abyss of space. The coordinates the AI had given them were precise, too precise. They were close, so close to the fleet. Her crew, a mixture of veterans and young soldiers, was ready, but there was a growing unease among them. The closer they got, the more it felt like they were walking into a trap. Aria's thoughts kept returning to the message the AI had sent. It wasn't just a warning of retribution. It was a declaration. Humanity had been betrayed. The Galactic Council wasn't just an external enemy. The ones who led this powerful and ruthless empire were, in fact, descendants of Earth itself. This wasn't a simple case of revenge. It was a war for the very soul of humanity. She and her crew weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the truth, for justice, and for the legacy of a forgotten Earth. "Captain, we've entered the asteroid field." A crew member's voice snapped Aria back to the present. She turned, her mind racing. This was it. The ancient star system that housed the secret fleet. It was a place where time had almost forgotten humanity, hidden away from the eyes of the galaxy for centuries. The stars in this part of the galaxy were dimmer, their light struggling to break through the dense clouds of dust and debris that surrounded them. It was the perfect hiding spot. And now, it was the perfect place for them to make their stand. As the ship maneuvered through the dense asteroid field, avoiding the dangerous rocks that could tear through their hull, Aria's mind was still on the shocking discovery. The Galactic Council was built on the ruins of a human civil war. Long ago, a faction of humans had left Earth, escaping the collapse of their society, and had allied with the alien species of the galaxy to build the empire that now stood in their way. Aria's ancestors had fought wars, lost battles, and ultimately been wiped out. But now she understood. Their own kind was behind the destruction of Earth. Her fist clenched around the control panel. The faces of her fallen comrades flashed through her mind. The innocent people who had perished in the wake of Earth's destruction. All of it was because of their betrayal. And now, Aria was going to make them pay. "Captain, we're approaching the fleet's location." The navigator's voice interrupted her thoughts. Aria nodded, her mind focused. "Prepare for combat. We don't know what we're walking into." The ship's alarms suddenly blared, signaling a new threat. A series of blips appeared on the radar. Advanced warships, the kind used only by the Galactic Council's elite forces. They had found them. As Aria watched the ship's systems go into battle mode, she realized this would be their biggest challenge yet. The Council had always been a step ahead. Now it seemed they were not only dealing with the remnants of humanity's past, but with the full fury of an empire that was willing to destroy them to protect its secrets. "Full shields. Get ready to fight." Aria barked. The crew scrambled into action, preparing the ship for an onslaught. Aria felt a rush of adrenaline as the first wave of enemy warships closed in on them. These were no ordinary enemies. These were the best of the best, and they knew what was at stake. The crew was outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Council didn't: the element of surprise. The ship bucked under fire as the enemy ships launched a barrage of energy beams at them. The sleek, dark hull of the human ship shimmered as it turned to avoid the incoming fire. Aria's hands moved swiftly over the controls, sending them into evasive maneuvers. She could feel the ship's engines straining as it twisted and dove through the space debris. The explosions from the energy blasts lit up the surrounding space, a dazzling array of lights in the vast, dark emptiness. As they pushed forward, Aria's heart raced. The closer they got to the fleet, the more dangerous their journey became. The asteroid fields were no longer just a natural obstacle. They were filled with automated defenses, remnants of humanity's long-forgotten technology, now turned hostile. Rogue AI systems designed to protect the fleet had turned against them, programmed to attack anything that came too close. "Captain, we've got incoming," a crew member shouted. Aria's eyes darted to the sensors, where a wave of robotic fighters emerged from the shadows of the asteroids. They were humanoid in shape, but their movements were cold, calculated, and mechanical. The rogue AI had activated its last line of defense. Aria didn't hesitate. "Engage," she commanded. The crew fired back, their own weapons lighting up the space around them. A series of explosions rocked the battlefield as laser beams sliced through the dark, colliding with the rogue fighters. Aria's ship bucked under the impact of a hit, but she didn't stop. She couldn't afford to. The fate of humanity rested on this mission. As the battle raged on, Aria couldn't help but think about the twisted history that had led them here. The Galactic Council, once composed of humans who had betrayed their own kind, had risen to power by allying with alien species. The very people who had wiped out Earth and its people were now the descendants of those who had once called Earth home. It was a betrayal that Aria would never forgive. She thought of the AI, the ancient system that had activated in response to the call for retribution. The AI had shown them the fleet's location, but it had also revealed something darker. The fleet wasn't just a weapon of revenge, it was the key to reclaiming humanity's place in the galaxy. And if they succeeded in their mission, they would not only have their revenge, but also restore humanity's legacy as the true rulers of the galaxy. Aria's fingers tightened around the controls as she directed the ship toward the heart of the asteroid field. The fleet was close, so close, but they couldn't afford to celebrate yet. Every moment brought new dangers, new obstacles, and new enemies. The rogue AI was relentless, its systems programmed to stop them at any cost. But Aria had one thing the AI didn't: her determination. And with that determination, she would lead her crew to the heart of the secret fleet, and finally, to the truth behind the Council's betrayal. The battle raged on, the tension thick as Aria's crew fought to protect their ship from the relentless AI forces. But as they pushed forward, one thing was clear: the stakes had never been higher. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about rewriting the history of humanity. And the crew of this ship was determined to do just that. Captain Aria gripped the control panel, her eyes locked onto the chaos unfolding before her. The space around her was a sea of fire and destruction. Ships clashed, energy beams danced across the stars, and the deep hum of engines and weapons filled the air. The human fleet, long dormant in its hidden corner of the galaxy, was finally awake and fighting for its existence. But the Galactic Council was ready. The first strike came from the Council's elite fleet, their ships moving with precision and overwhelming force. Aria had expected the battle to be difficult, but nothing could have prepared her for the sheer scale of the conflict. The enemy's numbers were far greater than her own, and their technology was leagues ahead. Massive warships glided through space with ease, their weapons firing relentlessly at the human fleet. The humans, though equipped with advanced cloaking technology and superior tactics, were outnumbered and overwhelmed. "Shields at 30%. We can't take another hit like that," the engineer called out, his voice trained with panic. Aria's heart pounded in her chest, but she didn't flinch. She couldn't afford to. This was humanity's last stand. She had to lead her crew to victory, no matter the cost. Her fingers danced over the controls, weaving the ship through a hail of enemy fire. They couldn't afford to be hit again. Each blast felt like a countdown to their demise. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the comms. "Captain Area, prepare to face your doom. The Council's wrath is unstoppable. Your efforts are futile." It was the voice of Supreme Commander Riven, the leader of the Galactic Council. His words dripped with malice, a reminder that humanity was nothing more than a distant memory to the Council. They had wiped out Earth 50,000 years ago, and now they intended to finish the job. But Area wasn't ready to back down. "We're not done yet, Riven. You've underestimated us for far too long." With a sharp movement, she turned the ship, evading another barrage of fire. The human fleet was using every trick they had: cloaking devices, advanced missiles, and stealth tactics to stay hidden and strike from the shadows. Each victory felt like a tiny victory in the face of overwhelming odds. But with each victory came a loss, a cost that Area couldn't ignore. As the battle raged on, something in the air changed. Area's mind raced, trying to piece together the growing sense of dread. It wasn't just the constant barrage of enemy fire or the threat of the enemy fleet. It was something more personal. Area's thoughts turned to her crew, the people she had fought alongside for years. They were all she had left, and she wasn't about to let them fall without giving everything she had. Bonner, one of her closest allies, stood by her side at the helm, his face grim with determination. They had fought together through countless battles, and his bravery had always been a source of strength for Area. But as the battle reached its peak, it became clear that the human fleet couldn't hold on much longer. The Council's warships were too numerous, and their firepower too devastating. Then it happened. A massive explosion rocked the ship, throwing everyone off balance. Area's eyes widened in horror as she saw Bonner, his body thrown from the control panel, lifeless. "No," Area shouted, rushing to his side. But it was too late. The explosion had been too powerful. Bonner was gone. A wave of grief washed over her, threatening to overwhelm her. Bonner had been more than a friend. He had been her anchor in the storm of war, her companion through the darkest days. And now he was gone. His death was a blow to the crew, to the entire fleet. But it was also the spark Area needed. Her grief quickly transformed into a burning rage, a fire that spread through her entire being. "We will not let his death be in vain," she screamed, her voice filled with determination. With renewed strength, Area took control. She ordered her crew to launch a full-scale assault. The human fleet, despite their losses, rallied behind her. They fought harder than ever, knowing that they were not just fighting for their lives, but for the memory of their fallen comrades, especially Bonner. The battle continued, each moment more intense than the last. The sound of explosions filled the air, and the ship rocked with each hit. Area fought alongside her crew, leading them through the chaos. Her heart was heavy with grief, but her resolve was stronger than ever. Bonner's sacrifice had made her fight harder, had given her the strength to do whatever it took to win. "Captain, the enemy flagship is in range," the communications officer shouted. Area's eyes narrowed as she saw the enormous warship, the heart of the Council's fleet, looming in the distance. It was massive, bristling with weapons, and shielded by layers of advanced technology. The final battle was upon them. The human fleet, despite their losses, charged forward, a swarm of ships now locked in a desperate battle with the Council's forces. Area's ship led the charge, her crew fighting with everything they had left. The battle seemed endless, a blur of fire and explosions, but Area kept her focus on the enemy flagship. This was their chance to end it all. "Target the flagship's core. Now," Area commanded. The crew fired the ship's most powerful weapon, a beam of concentrated energy that tore through space. The shot hit the flagship's core, causing a massive explosion that ripped through the ship. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The flagship began to break apart, its massive hull buckling under the damage. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining Council ships launched one final assault, a desperate attempt to crush the humans once and for all. Aria's ship was hit again, the hull groaning under the pressure. The crew fought on, refusing to give up. But the enemy's firepower was relentless. Then, in a flash of light, the fleet's cloaking technology activated, and the human ships disappeared into the shadows of space. The Council was momentarily stunned, not understanding what had just happened. Aria and her crew had disappeared into the dark void, leaving the Council's forces searching for an enemy that was no longer there. The battle was over, but it was not the end. Aria's ship and the surviving fleet had struck a decisive blow against the Galactic Council. The death of Bonner, the sacrifice of so many others, had not been in vain. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. As Aria stood in the quiet aftermath of the battle, her heart heavy with loss but filled with hope, she knew one thing for certain. The war was far from over. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity once again, and they would soon learn that no matter how powerful they were, humanity would never stop fighting for its place in the stars. As the remnants of the human fleet drifted in the silence of space, the balance of power seemed to have shifted. The Galactic Council, once confident in their superiority, now faced an unexpected resistance. Humanity's fleet, though small and battered, was no longer the underdog. Aria's leadership had ignited something in her crew, something that couldn't be extinguished by mere firepower. They were fighting for more than just survival. They were fighting for revenge, for justice, and for the legacy of Earth. The death of Bonner had been a devastating blow to the crew, but it had also strengthened their resolve. Aria felt his loss deeply, but his sacrifice had given her the clarity and drive she needed. She knew that humanity's future rested on her shoulders, and she wasn't about to let her people fall without a fight. "We can't let this be for nothing," Aria muttered under her breath, her eyes scanning the battlefields of space. "We have the advantage now. The Council is overconfident. They think we're finished, but they're wrong." The human fleet, using guerrilla tactics and advanced technology, had been striking at the heart of the Galactic Council's forces. Ships that once appeared invincible were now falling one after another. The Council's pride had blinded them to the human ingenuity and determination. The humans had adapted, using stealth and speed to outmaneuver the enemy, turning the tables in ways the Council never expected. Aria's heart raced with every victory, but she knew this war was far from over. The Council had something left, a weapon so powerful that it could destroy entire planets. It was their final card, their last attempt to crush the rebellion before it could grow stronger. The weapon was AI-controlled, a machine designed to obliterate worlds, and the Council had already deployed it. "We have to stop it," Aria, her second-in-command, Lieutenant Maiko, said urgently. "If that weapon fires, it will be the end for us all." Aria looked out at the darkness of space, her mind racing. This was it, the final chance to turn the tide of the war. The human fleet was in a fragile position, and the Council's weapon was a threat that couldn't be ignored. She knew that if they didn't act now, humanity would be wiped out, just like Earth was. It was a risk, a suicidal mission, but there was no other choice. "We'll take it down," Aria declared with unshakable confidence. "Prepare the team. We're going after that weapon." The plan was simple, almost too simple. They would infiltrate the Council's command center, disable the AI weapon, and take out any defenses standing in their way. But there were no guarantees. The command center was heavily guarded, surrounded by layers of advanced technology and automated defense systems. The journey itself would take them into the heart of enemy territory, and the weapon was housed within a massive, heavily fortified facility near the core of a dying star. The human fleet was ready. They were battered, exhausted, but more determined than ever. Aria stood in front of her crew, their faces filled with a mix of fear and hope. They all knew the risks. They all knew that they might never return from this mission. But they also knew that if they didn't try, humanity's future would be lost forever. "We fight for Earth," Aria said, her voice steady and strong. "We fight for every life that was lost. We fight because we have no other choice." With that, They launched their attack. The fleet moved swiftly through space. Using every advantage, they had to evade the Council's sensors. The enemy ships, still reeling from their previous defeats, were slow to react. The humans used their cloaking technology to hide their movements, sneaking past the outer defenses. But they couldn't stay hidden forever. The closer they got to the Council's facility, the more difficult it became to remain undetected. Enemy ships closing in. Maiko reported from the control panel. "We're going to have company soon." Arya nodded, her mind already calculating their next move. The team had to split up. Some would infiltrate the facility and disable the AI weapon, while others would hold off the Council forces long enough for them to complete their mission. It was a dangerous gambit, but it was their only option. The team was ready. The first wave of enemy ships came into view, and the space around them erupted in chaos. The humans fired their weapons, dodging and weaving through the stars in a thrilling dogfight. Lasers streaked across the void. Explosions rocked the space around them. And the crew fought with everything they had. Each shot, each maneuver, brought them closer to their goal. But the enemy wasn't backing down. The team on the ground was deep within the Council's command center now, and the clock was ticking. They had to disable the AI weapon before it was too late. They fought through waves of automated defenses, massive robots with gleaming, sharp limbs that swung through the air with deadly precision. Every room was a battle in itself, a test of their skill and resolve. Arya and her team fought their way through corridors, taking down robotic sentries one by one. "You're doing great," Arya shouted to her team. But she knew that the real challenge was yet to come. The AI weapon was still active, and it was only a matter of time before the Council launched it. They reached the heart of the command center, a massive chamber surrounded by complex machinery. At the center was the AI weapon, its core glowing with a menacing light. It was powered by an artificial intelligence so advanced that it could calculate the most efficient way to destroy entire planets. Arya's pulse quickened as she saw the weapon in its full glory. "We need to shut it down. Now," Maiko shouted as he worked to hack into the system. But before they could make a move, the alarms blared, and the doors slammed shut. They were trapped. "Get ready," Arya barked. "We're not going down without a fight." The final battle had begun. As the crew fought back against the last wave of enemies, Arya's mind focused on one thing: the weapon. If they didn't disable it now, all their efforts would be in vain. She dove into the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys. She had to hack into the system, disable the AI, and destroy the weapon. It was their last chance to stop the Council once and for all. In the final moments, as the countdown for the weapon reached its peak, Arya made the decisive move. She managed to bypass the security protocols, shutting down the AI weapon just seconds before it could fire. The massive facility shuddered, and the weapon powered down, its glow fading to nothing. The humans had won. The fleet returned to the shadows, leaving the Council reeling from the unexpected defeat. The weapon was gone, and the tide had truly turned. Humanity had done the impossible. They had fought back against the Galactic Council and won. Arya stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out into the stars. There was still so much to do, so much left to fight for. But for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself a moment of relief. They had won. They had proven that even against overwhelming odds, humanity could rise above. The stars were quiet as Arya stood at the helm of her ship, staring into the vast expanse of space. It felt surreal. After everything, after the countless battles, sacrifices, and losses, humanity had finally done it. They had defeated the Galactic Council, the very force that had once seemed invincible. The war had been long and brutal, but now it was over. And yet, despite the victory, a part of Arya felt the weight of what had been lost. Her heart still ached for Bonner, for the countless souls who had perished in the fight for freedom. But she knew they hadn't died in vain. Humanity had won. The final showdown had been intense, a battle of not just weapons but wills. Arya had faced the leader of the Galactic Council in hand-to-hand combat, a fierce and emotional confrontation that had tested every ounce of her strength and resolve. She had fought with the fury of 1,000 generations of humans, driven not only by the desire for victory, but by the memory of all the lives the Council had destroyed. The Council leader was a towering figure, a being of immense power and arrogance. But in that moment, Arya had been unstoppable. Her anger, her grief, and her unbreakable will had driven her to victory. She had finally defeated the one who had caused so much pain. The leader had fallen, and with him, the heart of the Council's rule. The eye-controlled weapon, the last piece of their arsenal, had been destroyed. The Council had no more power, no more weapons to use against humanity. With the fall of their leader and the destruction of their weapon, the Galactic Council had no choice but to surrender. The once mighty empire, so sure of its superiority, had been brought to its knees by the sheer will of a small group of humans. It was a victory that would echo throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. The Council leader was a towering figure, a being of immense power and arrogance. But in that moment, Arya had been unstoppable. Her anger, her grief, and her unbreakable will had driven her to victory. She had finally defeated the one who had caused so much pain. The leader had fallen, and with him, the heart of the Council's rule. The eye-controlled weapon, the last piece of their arsenal, had been destroyed. The Council had no more power, no more weapons to use against humanity. With the fall of their leader and the destruction of their weapon, the Galactic Council had no choice but to surrender. The once mighty empire, so sure of its superiority, had been brought to its knees by the sheer will of a small group of humans. It was a victory that would echo throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. As Arya looked out at the remains of the Council's forces, her mind drifted to the journey ahead. The battle was won, but the war wasn't truly over. There was much to rebuild. Earth, once a broken world in the ashes of destruction, had to rise again. It was a task that seemed impossible, but Arya knew that humanity was more than capable of it. They had proven it. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She turned to see Miko and the other members of her crew standing behind her. Their faces were marked by the weight of the past, but filled with a quiet pride. They had done it. They had taken down the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. "We did it, Captain," Miko said, his voice full of awe. "We won." Arya nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Yes, we did. But the victory came with a price. The crew had lost so much, and though they had defeated the Council, they couldn't bring back the lives that had been lost. They couldn't undo the destruction that had been done to Earth. The pain of their losses would stay with them forever. But Arya knew that the greatest honor they could give the fallen was to ensure that their sacrifices were not in vain. They had to rebuild. They had to make Earth a place worth living for again. As the crew gathered around, Arya's mind turned to Earth's future. The first steps would be the hardest. Rebuilding a planet from the ashes of war was no easy task. But humanity had always been resilient. They had survived the darkest days, and now they would rise again. Arya had no doubt that Earth would flourish once more. With the power of the human spirit behind them, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. The crew celebrated their victory, but the celebrations were quiet, tempered by the understanding that this victory was only the beginning. There was still much work to be done, much to fix. But they were united, stronger than ever before. The bond between them had been forged in the fires of war, and now it was unbreakable. Together, they would face whatever challenges the galaxy threw their way. As the human fleet moved away from the wreckage of the Council's forces, the galaxy seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The dark shadow of the Council had finally been lifted. Arya watched as the new flag of Earth was raised, a symbol of humanity's triumph. The flag, made from the remnants of the old one, now stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was a symbol not just of survival, but of rebirth. The flag waved proudly in the wind, a beacon of hope to all who had suffered under the Council's reign. The human spirit had triumphed over oppression, over tyranny, and over the might of advanced technology. The Council had relied on their technology to dominate the galaxy, but they had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, their will to fight for what was right. No amount of technology could crush that. The story of humanity's triumph would be told for generations to come. It would be remembered as a turning point in galactic history, a moment when the oppressed rose up and defeated their oppressors. And as Earth's new flag fluttered in the wind, a new dawn had begun. Humanity had claimed its place as a dominant force in the galaxy once more. Aria stood tall, her gaze unwavering. She had fought for this moment, for this future, and now she was ready to protect it. The galaxy was vast, and there would be other challenges ahead. But humanity had proven that no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, they would always rise to the challenge. Aria turned to her crew, her heart swelling with pride. They were ready. Together, they would rebuild Earth. Together, they would defend it from any new threats. Together, they would ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. And together, they would lead humanity into a new era, a bright future where humanity's spirit could never be crushed. As the human fleet sailed toward Earth, ready to begin the next chapter of their story, Aria knew one thing for certain. Humanity was no longer a fragile, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would soon learn that no one, not even the most advanced empire, could stand against them. Humanity's triumph was not just a victory in war. It was a victory of spirit, of resilience, and of the unbreakable will to survive and thrive, no matter the odds. And as Earth's new flag flew proudly in the stars, Aria couldn't help but smile, knowing that the future of humanity was bright, and it had only just begun.